Welcome to Upfront on the Voice of America. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. Now, Capetown is basically surrounded by water, lots of it. But that apparently will not stop residents of South Africa's second largest city from running out of water. The water shortage is partly a result of a 3-year drought, the longest in over 100 years. But it's also a result of poor planning. Many analysts laid the blame for this water crisis on the lack of foresight and planning by the city's administrators. They said that the city's leadership has, over the years, failed to adequately prepare for such a crisis. That's even though they received warnings from as far back as the early 90s. And so it has come to this. Capetown's more than 4 million residents have been told to prepare for what they are calling Day Zero. It's forecasted to be around late April or early May. And that's when the city of Capetown officially runs out of water and the taps are shut off. Patricia De Lee is the mayor of Capetown.
We're losing 1% of our dams, 1.5 every week. Our dams for the first time is below 30%, and I'm really worried.
City residents are obviously worried, and they have been directed to limit their water consumption to just 50 liters a day. That is 13.2 gallons per person on a daily basis. That's not really that much water to use for their daily needs.
We definitely have to do our part and use as little water as possible. But I do hope that the government is doing something to prevent Day Zero, because it will be a national crisis. It will be honestly horrific.
But the residents are also worried that the water crisis will affect two of the city's economic lifelines. That's tourism and agriculture. Capetown is one of the most visited places on the planet. Each year, the city attracts around 2 million visitors from around the world, and figures show that the tourism industry accounts for 9% of South Africa's GDP. Visitors come to see the world-famous Table Mountain and its centuries-old wine industry. They also come for other activities, like this one, skydiving. Capetown has one of the most beautiful landscapes in the world. The best way to see it is from the top. After flying that high, you probably need some water to drink. Except now, hotels are advising their guests to be cognizant of how much water they can use, like this display of water bottles in the hotel lobby at the Radisson Blu. Now, there has been advances in technological innovations to fight against water scarcity, and experts are calling on the city administrators to make use of these new technologies to upgrade the water systems and build more desalination aquifer and water recycling plants. On my recent trip to Capetown, I met up with Tom Callahan, the head of business development at Graham Tech, a technology innovation and manufacturing company that has developed what it says are unique patented solutions to help solve the water crisis. So we're at a hotel right here, and we found the pool is closed off.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about Capetown being a city that depends a lot on tourism. How is water shortage affecting, or how will it affect tourism in this place?
It has a massive impact on tourism. You know, people who are traveling around the world, spending their hard-earned money, they want to go on holiday and have all the luxuries that they can afford and that they want. I just think it's unacceptable that a hotel like this Radisson Blu at Granger Bay on the beachfront doesn't have a swimming pool for guests. I think what's happening is there's a big change in mindset. So as an example, instead of using chlorinated swimming pools as we've always done, we should be using seawater swimming pools. We've got all the seawater. It just makes sense. So, you know, we've got to change the way. We've just never really respected water properly. And I think the respect of water is something that we're learning fast here. This particular hotel, why I like it is, you know, they really are trying to reduce their water costs. They communicate with their guests on, you know, taking a 2-minute shower, which uses 25 liters of water, compared to a bath, which uses 110 liters of water. That's a massive amount of water. So, you know, they really are trying, and I think that goes for a lot of businesses, particularly in the tourism industry. But, you know, it's a fine balance. You can't tell a guest that they can't have a shower. or a bath. You know, they're on holiday. They should be able to do what they want, and it will have a negative effect. And that's why we desperately need to get our water balance back into the system.
How would you advise a household in terms of responsible water use during this time period?
Listen, don't waste water. You know, respect water. Short showers. We're not allowed to water our gardens. There's water restrictions in place. So those things like that, where you normally just leave a tap or a sprinkler running, can't do it these days. You've got to also just be a bit cleverer with the way, you know, as an example, rather have a storage tank outside your house, so when it does rain you can store water, which you can use in your garden and swimming pool and for your daily water or household usage.
Now, you've lived in this area, in this city for a long time. Have you ever had this problem before? Is this something that you ever worried about?
No, never. It's been a problem long time coming, in that it's the worst drought in 100 years. This city's been looking at desalination for over 10 years. Our company, Grahamtech, have been talking to them for years about credible, affordable solutions using reverse osmosis desalination to build serious water capacity. And they really thought that it was going to rain. And now they've got to the point they've realized you can't rely on climate.
You were telling me about the history of this place.
Well, the bottom tip of Africa has always been known as the Cape of Storms. We've got two currents that meet on either side of the tip of Africa, the Benguela and the Antarctic, and they create this weather patterns over hundreds of years with lashing storms. We've got huge shipwrecks all dotted around the coastline from the early 1600s with Christopher Columbus and the Dutch East India Trade Company. It was a huge shipping route around the Horn of Africa, or the tip of Africa. So the Cape of Storms, when I was a youngster, which obviously was not too long ago, we used to have these massive storms. I can't remember one.
Around this time of the year?
We had one storm 6 months ago, but it didn't really bring much rain. It was almost a mini hurricane, but not much rain. But what happened to the Cape of Storms? Now, you can't tell me that that's just nature. Climate has changed. So yeah, the Cape of Storms no longer. Now we're the Cape of drought.
Of drought. So Capetown is going one of the longest droughts.
Over 100 years.
In over 100
it's
years.
The worst drought in over 100 years.
And what does that mean for your water supply?
Well, it means that we basically have got 3 months more left of water supply in our system.
You're saying Capetown could run out of water potentially?
February or March, it's going to run out. Just to give an example, the government has actually activated our defence force, our army, that will be protecting our water sources.
That's a security issue, national security issue.
It's a national security issue. It's a disaster. I mean, it's plain and simple. It's not about. It's a political thing, but more importantly, it's a social thing. You cannot run out of water. It's an absolute disaster.
Now, aside from the government activating the national security forces, what are the solutions? What are they doing?
We can make fresh water through desalination from the sea. They're going through a protracted, long tender process. At this stage, with this emergency measures, they should just be picking up the phone, speaking to all water technology companies and asking them to put down water plants as fast as possible. So the procurement process is just not conducive to action.
So as a company that is engaged actively in trying to find a solution to the issue, you feel like the government has not been very responsive to you?
They've dropped the ball. And you know, it's basically up to business.
What is it going to mean for tourism and agriculture, which are the two main, I guess, income earners in this area?
It's basically a disaster for agriculture. Tourism will continue. It's just a new world of tourism. You have to talk to your guests. You have to actually create a behavior in your guests, in your hotels and in your Airbnbs and so forth, that they don't waste water, don't run long baths. You know, you don't have to do your washing every day.
But that means tourists will think twice before they come here.
Absolutely. I would.
Right.
But you know what, it's a beautiful place.
You want to swim when you come with your family here.
Exactly.
You want to dip in the...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
now the question is, I guess, when people see this, look, when we pan around, this is all water around us. How do you run out of water when you have all this much water around you?
You run out because you haven't planned, you know.
Poor planning.
Poor planning.
Poor urban planning.
Poor plan. Exactly. That's a good way to phrase it. Poor urban planning, inability to make decisions, and red tape. Government red tape is, it's totally crippling our country, and it's crippling our city. And it's time for action, and that's what we've just said to our local government, is that, you know what, we're happy to collaborate. There are about 10 desalination suppliers in South Africa. We're happy to collaborate together. Let's work together instead of compete with each other.
Now, you guys have really great wine here. Are you going to be running out of wine too?
I hope not. I really hope not.
I mean, if you have no rain, so are you going to...
Well, I'll tell you what we are doing is we're trying to drink more wine to save on the water.
Tom, thank you very much
Pleasure,
for talking to us, man.
Pleasure, Jackson.
Beautiful place here. Beautiful place. That is the Table Mountain.
It's absolutely amazing. We've got a beautiful city, and we welcome all of you to come and visit someday. And listen, on the exchange rate, it's a pretty affordable holiday. So we look forward to seeing you in Cape Town.
Water scarcity is not limited to Cape Town alone. In fact, the UN recognizes it as an increasingly pressing issue in our modern world. And the UN predicts that by 2025, over 1.8 billion people will live in regions of absolute water scarcity. And in Cape Town, as Day Zero approaches, city authorities want the municipal water supply will be turned off, except for essential services like the hospital. The city is also beginning to listen to people like Tom Callahan and working to build desalination plants. But whether those systems will be brought online before Day Zero is a question that remains to be answered.